you're ready, let's go. If you're ready, let's go. Let's go. If you're ready, let's go. Hi, and welcome back to another episode of Sisters Daily. I am so glad to see you. If you're new to this channel, hi, welcome. My name is Candice, and this is Sisters Daily. If you are new, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so that you can be kept up to date when I release new content. I'm so glad you're here. And if you are returning, hey, sis, well done. I hope you're doing well. Today's episode, we are going to be starting week 1 of a new series I am calling CBT the Bible Way, where we are going to be running through some applied tips and tools used in the mental health world in CBT, but I'm going to be coming to you from a Bible perspective. Everything that we have here on this earth has been created and given to us by God, and I'm going to be showing us how CBT, though it might be a mental health tool, it's actually very biblically principled. Not really good grammar, but it is really Bible-based tools and techniques. So if you are interested in understanding how we can support our mental health via CBT tools, but from a Bible perspective, then please stay tuned. Today, we're going to be talking about journaling and thought records as a CBT tool. So if you didn't watch my introduction to this series, please go back and watch that. It will give you some context to what we're doing here. This is week 1, and we're going to be looking at journaling and thought records as a CBT tools. We are looking at how our thoughts impact our heart and impact our behaviors. So we had the CBT triangle last week, where we looked at how our thoughts are directly correlated with how we feel, our heart, and it then goes on to impact our behavior, repeated patterns, repeated things that we do, our behaviors. So today we're going to be looking at journaling and thought records as a tool or tip to supporting our thoughts, our feelings, and our behaviors. Now, journaling can come in a variety of different ways, but let's run through the benefits of journaling at the moment. So journaling, what is journaling? Journaling is a practice of writing things down, our thoughts, our feelings, how we've dealt with situations. We can have things like gratitude journals where we simply write out things that we are grateful for. We can have thought processing journals where something might have happened and in the thick of it, we weren't really able to process our thoughts very well, but retrospectively, we might decide to write out the event and see what really took place. Now, writing things out, if you looked in one of my previous series when I did Relax, Relate, Release, I talked about decanting our thoughts. Decanting is about pouring out and separating from a larger vessel. Now, sometimes when you are in the thick of a situation, it's really hard to analyze and process things properly or thoroughly. So that's why we have journaling, because it allows you to kind of step out of the situation, decant your thoughts into a piece of paper or a document, or we'll go through some different mediums that you can do journaling. It allows you to decant your thoughts and then look at it from an outsider's perspective. You're no longer in the thick of the situation. You're almost an outsider looking in. And this is one of the benefits of journaling, is that you are able to take things out of here, which can be quite congested and foggy and built up with a lot of other things, and you're able to put your thoughts down outside of that area and look at it from a different perspective. It's a very good tool for stress management, because sometimes I always consider my brain as a plate. Now, certain size plates can only hold certain amounts. If you have a small saucer that's made for a mug, don't go try putting a piece of pork chop on it. unless it's a very small one, because it's not going to hold it. Now, we have all been given a different capacity measure. We've all been built to manage, deal, carry different loads. Now, sometimes life can become overwhelming and overloading. Now, if any of you have ever worked with a computer, what happens when it gets overloaded? It crashes, simply in the middle of a conversation. You could be doing something, literally, your brain is like a motherboard. You can be doing something and it takes one event in a day and you short out, you cut out, you're gone. And you will notice this because you can't focus anymore, you can't process anymore. Just like a computer, it starts to glitch, it starts to twitch, it starts to do some really weird things, or it just shuts off. And our brain and our minds are very much the same, like a computer motherboard. If it gets overloaded and overwhelmed, it has a tendency to switch off. So journaling helps us decant some of that stuff. So many of us have different places to save different things because we can't save everything on our phone, can we? Eventually, our phone will say, you don't have no more space. And sometimes our brain is like that. We step into another situation in the day or in the week or in the month or in the year, and we step into it and our brain simply says, we don't have no more space to deal with this. So what journaling allows you to do is to move things from one place to another. It allows you to decant and take things out of one plate and maybe put it in a different plate for you to look at a later date, or to look at just from a different perspective. It works best when it's done consistently. If you often and frequently download your thoughts and you're frequently introspective in that way, i.e. looking in that way, it is very beneficial to growth and development and just general awareness of yourself. But sometimes we don't like holding ourselves to every night, 8 p.m. before bed, I must journal. It then becomes a bit fake and it's not really a natural thing to do. So some people don't have a consistent journaling method or process in their life. It is a as and when situation. When they feel like my brain is a bit overloaded, there's a bit too much going on, or as a response to a specific situation that's happened, they might take out a journal. Now, I own 1,000,001 journals, but I cannot say to you that I journal every day. I know for myself when my brain is getting a little bit foggy, a little bit congested, and I need to decant, or sometimes very specific things happen to me and I'm not too sure what just happened. I don't know if you've ever had a situation where you've been through something or an event took place and you're at the end of it and you're thinking, I'm not too sure what happened there. Decanting is really good. Writing out is really good. Gratitude journals are really good because sometimes when bad things are happening or it's a very stressful time, sometimes we forget to count our blessings. We forget to acknowledge the good things that are happening around us. And gratitude journals are really good at just helping us. It's really good for children as well to learn to be grateful. Just picking 2 or 3, 5 things in one day or at the end of the week that we can be grateful for, it really does put a different perspective on what could have seemed as a really bad day. And it's currently 2020 in the UK. Here we are in lockdown part 2, and sometimes when we just hear bad news all the time, deaths going up, cases going up, hospitals overwhelmed, shut down this, shut down that, shut that, shut this, stay indoors, go to work, don't go to work, this lovely direction that we get from our government, go to work, don't go to work, use transport, walk, all this stuff, it can get very overwhelming. What am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to go to work? Can I go to work? Can I use a public transport? Am I allowed to go out? Can my kids go to school? It gets very overwhelming, especially if you are a single parent like myself. So journaling allows you to decant. There's also a process of bullet point journaling, and I do this a lot because if I think of how many things I have to do in a day, I can get very overwhelmed. If there's no process to it, there's no theory to it, there's no list to it. I'm a list person. I'm a list person through and through, simply because it allows me to visualize what I have to do. If I just know I've got loads to do, what's loads? What does that mean? What does that actually look like? What does that actually entail? And sometimes just writing out what you have to do, sometimes when you visually see it, you think, oh, okay, I can deal with it, rather than it all being in your head and you feeling very overwhelmed. So that's what journaling is. Now, the benefits. kind of touched on it a little bit. It can help you clarify your thoughts and feelings. Sometimes, like I said, when you're in the thick of it, it's very difficult to clarify what just happened. Oftentimes when I say we because I have my own therapist, when you go to counseling therapies, coaches, they help you just walk through situations when sometimes it can seem a bit overwhelming. Sometimes you just need to clarify what actually just happened, because your feelings, like we talked about the triangle, your feelings and your emotions can often overwhelm logic and sense and normality, and that can then go on to impact what you then do. And we then get irrational behaviors because we've had no governance, we've had no clarity, we are simply moving off what we have felt. And oftentimes our thoughts are very much tidal. By that I mean they float in and they float out. They float in and they float out. Our emotions can be like that. So if you are governing your behavior based on this current of feelings, you may be called irrational and other things. So it's really good just to clarify your thoughts. Oftentimes, I'll give you a practical example. Oftentimes, before I go to a board meeting or before I have to do presentation, I explained to you that I work in the NHS, quite corporate, quite high up. Sometimes before I go into a board meeting or a presentation, I will write things out. Sometimes I will just decant the stuff that's in my mind. Sometimes I will write out the answers to questions I'm thinking they may ask me. That way I can stay focused on the meeting enough, but if I am asked, I'm not scrambling in my head for an answer, it's written out. Or just to give me the clarity of space and mind to really focus on the meeting that I'm going to, I will just empty out my brain of all the fluff and stuff basically that's going on in my head. One of the benefits of journaling is also a problem solving tool. Sometimes you go into situations and you're not too sure what you really feel about it. You're not too sure what logic you should apply. And rather than just being off the cuff, sometimes it's good to be structured about how you respond to things. Sometimes it's important to just take a minute and really understand, what do I feel about this? What do I think about this? What have I learned before in this situation? Sometimes we go around in circles because we've not taken the time to stop and analyze and think and process and apply some logic, apply some wisdom. Journaling really does help that, because you can write things out, analyze it, look at it from an outward perspective, almost like it's not you. Sometimes when you're too involved or too invested in a thing, it can get very hard to make logical and wise decisions. So journaling really does help that. Now, the strategies of journaling, we have gratitude journals, like I spoke before. We've got emotional release journaling, like I spoke before. And we have bulleted journals, like I spoke before, where we literally bullet point things out. It's really, really helpful to just decant and get things out of our head. Now, some of the mediums of journaling, depending on how you work and how you process your thoughts, some people like to write. Some people like to write poetry as a method of journaling. It's still getting things out of you, but in a very artistic way. Some people do bullet points. I tell you what I do sometimes. If it's a really tricky situation or a really painful situation that I've been through, I will write it out and I will burn it. Don't worry, I'm not an arsonist. I'm not here burning up things all over the place. I will write it out and burn it. Something about visually seeing it decompose and degrade and go up in smoke and disappear is really releasing for me. I will go outside and I will burn it. What else? On your phone, voice notes, just post-it notes. If I showed you my room, if I kind of panned out and turned the camera around, I have post-it notes all over the place. I'll read one of them for you. It says, I am planted, not buried, greater is coming. Just journaling, just getting thoughts out, just putting things around me that allow me to kind of step out of a situation sometimes. So we've got voice notes, we've got making notes on your phone, writing, not writing, sometimes just writing it on a piece of paper somewhere. It's just getting things out of your head, journaling. Now, what does the Bible say about journaling? So remember, I said this is CBT, but from a Bible perspective. And I'm going to give us a couple of scriptures. I've got 3 here. I've got Habakkuk 2, verse 2. And that is the first one that came to my mind when I was studying to do this post today. Habakkuk 2, verse 2. And that says, write the vision, make it plain. It goes on for a little bit after that, but write the vision, make it plain. Something about writing things down, making it plain. Write the vision, make it plain. Jeremiah 30 verse 2 says, write in a book all the words that I have spoken to you. Again, I'm just taking out the bits of the scripture that I want you to hear. Write in a book all the words that I have spoken to you. So in this context, Jeremiah was a prophet, and God was saying to Jeremiah, the things I'm telling you, write it down. Holding it all in your head, yeah, great if you've got a lovely memory, but what I'm telling you, I need you to write it down. Now, writing things down for the prophet was so that it could be shared in and amongst the people. It could be kept as a remembrance. People could reference it. And journaling actually is really good referencing. When I get further down, I'll talk about why it's good to journal from a spiritual perspective as well, for referencing and coming back to. And Psalms 119, it says, make me understand the way of your precepts, and I will meditate on your words. Meditation is about sitting and musing and thinking and rethinking and almost digesting and redigesting the word of God. That's meditation. It's really beneficial when you've written something down, because you can go back to it and play it over, or review it, or look at it again, or think about it again. If it's in your head, it might get pushed out by something else. You might forget it. But when it's been written down, you can go back to it. You can meditate over it. You can remember it. You can rehearse it. Writing things out is a very, very, very biblical concept. If you look at the book of Psalms, if that is not a diary, I don't know what is. We look at the life of David and potentially other authors, and how much journaling is done in that book, where he talks about highs, he talks about lows, he talks about happiness, he talks about death, he talks about situations that he's in, he talks about victories, he talks about failures. That is a diary, if ever there was one in the Bible. And I really think that the whole Bible is a diary, because it's different books written by different people, detailing their experiences. That's really a journal. When we look at the New Testament, we've got Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. This is their experience walking with Jesus. It's them journaling, it's them writing out what was going on and what was happening. Now we can look at that and analyze and dissect, and we can preach sermons from it. We can do Bible studies from it, because we get to learn from what they've gone through. But that to me is like journaling. It's about writing out what they've seen. And so many books of the Bible after that, the book of Acts, huge book of accounts of what's happened and what was going on in the early church, all the way down to Revelation, where we start to see prophecies of end time. Journaling, it's writing out, it's where God has spoken to people and they have taken the time to write out the vision and make it plain for us, so that we could go back and have a look at it. Now, from a spiritual perspective, we can do so many things when it comes to journaling. We can do prayer requests. We could write out our answered prayers. We can write out our dreams and our, what we call, I guess, daydreams, but dreams and visions that we have, quotes that come to us, encouragements, book reviews, Bible reviews, gratitude and joy journals. All these things we can use from a spiritual perspective to really encourage our faith and encourage our walk. I give you a personal example. I do journaling on my phone because thoughts come to me all day long. So I journal a lot on my phone. And this week I came across my 4/5 year plan that I had created in 2016. It's now 2020. And you know what was so uplifting for me and really encouraged my faith? That a lot of the things that I had asked God about and spoken to God about and decided we're going to get done in the next 4 or 5 years, in a prayer-centered way, of course, a lot of it had been done. A lot of it had been achieved and accomplished. Now, on a day-to-day basis, it's hard to see accomplishments. You know, everybody's still alive at the end of the day. Like, that is a big accomplishment. But it's hard to see the detail of how far you've come. Sometimes it's hard to count your blessings when it's been a difficult day and you just feel so wiped out. But because I had journaled what I wanted to achieve in the next 4 to 5 years, it was really encouraging to me to look back and see, wow, God, you answered that. God, you did that. God, we achieved that. We've got there. My kids have done that. We've done that. Okay, so there was one that I didn't get to do, and that was learning to swim. I can swim if somebody's dying. Like if my child is dying, boy, I will swim. But to swim laps and be free and all that, no. That was one thing that I didn't do in the last 4 to 5 years. In 4 to 5 years, I still didn't do that. But never mind. It's okay. Not like we're going anywhere swimming right now in lockdown. But just to say, it's really good to just look at things. Sometimes I have dreams and I don't know what they mean. And I write them down. And some weeks later, months later, years later, they make sense. Sometimes I have bad dreams. Sometimes I have bad dreams and I write them out and it becomes a prayer point. I look at the things that have happened in the dream and it kind of guides my prayer as to something I might need to pray about, pray against, pray for, pray towards. Sometimes it's good to write out your prayers. I'll give you this tip. Sometimes it's difficult to pray. And let's be honest, sometimes it's difficult to articulate everything that you are feeling. Do you know what I do? And especially when I'm mentoring, coaching, especially younger believers, I tell them to write God a letter. Write to him. There's something about putting pen to paper and writing out your thoughts that they find really, really helpful. And I still do it all till today. I write to God. Why does it work? I don't know. But it really does work. Just writing him a letter. Writing out a letter to God, say, I feel like this has happened today. It works. It's another process of decanting. It helps us with wisdom and applying wisdom. Wisdom, in my mind, is the application of comprehended information. You have information, you're given an information source. Once you have comprehended it, it turns into knowledge. Comprehended information is knowledge. Knowledge applied is wisdom. We sometimes miss the information or we miss the knowledge. We miss the learning of an event because we have taken no time to really sit and look at it. Journaling allows us to decant what happened in an event and take out the learning points. Sometimes we find ourselves in cycles of situations simply because we have not learned. We've not learned, we've not gathered the knowledge, and therefore our wisdom that we are trying to apply is erred. So journaling is a really good tool to analyze situations and learn. It also helps us to guard our heart because when we are journaling, sometimes it exposes character traits within us. It exposes our responses to things. It exposes triggers. It might expose areas in our life where we are struggling. So it helps us to guard our heart because we know when I talk to that person, this happens. Every time I go here, this happens. Every time I do that, this happens. So it helps us in learning about self-awareness and guarding our heart. The psalmist David said, search me, O God, know my thoughts, see if there be some wicked ways in me. Yeah, search, self-awareness, know my thoughts, see if there be some wicked ways. Sometimes we need to write things out, and when I write things out, sometimes I can think, Candice, that wasn't too good, that wasn't right. Yeah, you might need to go and apologize about that. You might need to go and try that one again. If I hadn't written it out, I might go and do it again because I've not taken the time to learn from a situation. So without further ado, this has been journaling and thought diaries, and how from a CBT perspective it's used to manage stress and anxiety. It's also used for learning and stress releases and emotional releases. But from a Bible concept, we can see throughout the Bible, especially like in the book of Psalms and in Matthew, Mark, Luke and John, these are journals, these are accounts, these are people writing down what's going on, what they're feeling, what they're experiencing. Now we, thousands of years down the line, can analyze and learn from these, but I'm sure for those individuals it was a point of decanting their feelings and their thoughts and allowing them to learn from the situations that they were going through. So this has been CBT from a Bible's perspective. We have learned today about journaling and the benefits of journaling, the benefits of getting our thoughts out of this sometimes very overwhelmed situation, this overwhelmed motherboard, and taking it down onto paper, virtually, post-it notes, voice notes, however works best for you. So I want you to go away, write a journal. Think about a situation that you've been through this week. Write it out. Write out the event and see what you can learn. Let's get some information. Let's comprehend it and turn it into knowledge. And let's be wise. So thank you so much for joining me this week. And I look forward to seeing you next week. Take care.